For decades, one theory has dominated the story of Mohenjo-daro. A theory so dramatic, so cinematic, that it buried the real evidence. According to the internet, Mohenjo-daro didn't fall because of drought, disease, or time. It was obliterated by a nuclear explosion. Radioactive skeletons, vitrified walls, people collapsing in the streets as if frozen in their final moment. You have seen the videos. You have heard the narration. Millions believe it. But here's the strangest part. None of it appears in the archaeology. Not a single excavation log. Not a single scientific report. Not even a passing mention. So how did a city that vanished 4,000 years ago became the center of the biggest archaeological conspiracy theory of modern India? Why did the nuclear story spread faster than the truth? And what actually happened in Mohenjo-daro? Today, we close this chapter once and for all. Not with speculations, not with mysteries, but with evidence, exactly as archaeologists recorded it. Because Mohenjo-daro did not end with a blast. It ended with something far more human and far more revealing. Whenever we look at the end of Mohenjo-daro, we need to deal with two proofs. Everyone brings up when they say the city was destroyed by a nuclear explosion. First claim, the skeletons show abnormally high radiation. Claim 2, the walls and bricks were vitrified, melted into glass. These 2 points are the backbone of the nuclear blast theory. So let's examine them properly. Not emotionally or mythically, but like an archaeologist. The story goes like this. Archaeologists supposedly found skeletons with radiation levels so high that they matched victims of modern nuclear blasts. Sounds dramatic and scientific, and it is repeated everywhere. But here's the truth. No excavation reports from the 1922 till today mention anything radioactive about the skeletons. Not one. Not a line or a footnote. Nothing. That claim does not exist in archaeology. So, where did it come from? A Russian writer in the 1960s misquoted a study about radiation in an Egyptian mummy, and people simply assumed that it was Mohenjo-daro. Yes, it might sound strange, but that's exactly what happened. None of the people who claim it have visited the site or taken real readings. That's it. It's a copy-paste error that became a global theory. But even if someone had measured the radiations, there's a basic problem. Radioactive isotopes do not survive 4,000 years in open soil. Moisture disperses them. Sediments dilutes them. Ionizing radiation drops exponentially. If a skeleton had 1% of Hiroshima-level radiation today, the archaeologists who handled it in the 1920s, they would have collapsed on the site. So claim 1 collapses completely because there is no data, no measurement, no lab reports, and no scientific recording or foundation. Just a rumor that mutated into evidence. Now let's come to the claim 2, the vitrified walls. This part is even more interesting because it sounds technical. And honestly, somewhere it has some depth. So first, let's understand what vitrification means. It means bricks or sands being heated to 1,300 degrees to 1,600 degrees Celsius until they are partially melt and they cool down into a glassy surface. And yes, a nuclear explosion can cause that. And that's why this theory feels convincing to many people. And trust me, I was also fascinated by this. But before we talk about nuclear blast, we need to talk about something far more older and much simpler. Kilns. Most people imagine kilns as tiny pottery oven. They're not. In ancient cities, especially Indus cities, kilns were massive industrial furnaces. Just like an industrial complex, built with thick walls, tunnels for oxygen flow, and chambers designed to reach temperatures above 1400 degrees. Let's break it visually. So a pottery kiln would have a temperature around 900 to 1100 degrees Celsius. Bead firing kilns, 1000 to 1300. Copper and bronze smelting furnaces 1200 to 1400, and glazing kilns can go up to 1450 degrees Celsius. These numbers are in the same range where vitrification can occur. So, in simple words, Indus industrial kilns were hot enough to melt sand, deform bricks, and create glazy patches. This brings us to the key question. If vitrification is found, then where exactly is it found in Mohenjo-daro? And this is the part that nuclear theory videos would never show. The melted or heat-altered fragments are found in craft workshops, bead making units, pottery kilns, copper smelting areas, not in streets, residential walls, or city-wide destruction layer or public buildings. So if Mohenjo-daro was hit by a nuclear blast, the vitrification would be everywhere. Instead, it's exactly where ancient furnaces stood. If a nuclear explosion happened, you would see fused bricks across kilometers, shock wave damage, melted pottery everywhere, city-wide burnt layers, ash deposits, glassified sand in open spaces. But we see none. We see local, industrial, predictable heat signatures, not uniform, not catastrophic melting. For vitrification to be a proof of a nuclear blast, you need shocking melting markers. Lechatite, pure silica glass, microtectites, shattered cones, rapid cooling surface textures, isotopic anomalies. None have been found, not in a single sample. So, claim 2 also collapses. But I leave it for you to decide. So yes, there is a heat damage, but it comes from kilns and industrial fires, not from a city-ending explosion. So now you can see it cleanly. There are no radioactive skeletons, no nuclear level vitrification, no citywide blast pattern. What we do have is rumors, miscitation, industrial heat, and a century of storytelling layered on top of early excavation confusion. The nuclear theory is not an ancient evidence. It is a modern imagination. But this actually brings us to the finale of this theory. What in the Indus Valley world were these 41 skeletons doing, lying scattered through the city, as if life stopped mid-step? Before we step into the final part of this mystery and the part that created the nuclear theory in the first place, I want to ask you something simple. If you are still watching, you are not here for conspiracy. You are here for clarity, for evidence, for real history. So if you haven't already, then please subscribe and help us reach 300,000 subscribers before the year ends. It tells YouTube that research-driven content still matters, and it helps this channel reach more curious minds like you. Thank you. Now let's talk about the part of Mohenjo-daro that confused the entire world for almost a century. The skeletons. Wherever people argue that the city died in a single moment, this is the image they show. Bodies lying inside rooms, bodies huddled together, as if everyone collapsed at the same time. And honestly, it looks dramatic and it looks very convincing. But once you understand that how these skeletons were actually found, the entire nuclear story begins to fall apart. Let's start with the most famous group of all, the 14 bodies found inside a single room. At first glance, it feels like a tragic scene. A family trapped in their house, everyone dying together. People have repeated the story for years. But here is what the excavation really shows, explained in the simplest possible way. These skeletons were not lying on the floor of a house. They were lying on top of a collapsed house. The original home, the one built during Mohenjo-daro's peak, had already fallen apart. Its walls had crumpled. Its room had collapsed. The roof was lying on the floor. Brick and mud covered everything. And only after that destruction, after the space had become a pile of rubble, someone placed these bodies on top of it. This one detail changes everything. If 14 people had died suddenly inside their home, their bodies would be on the original floor. But the floor wasn't even visible. It was buried under the ruins of an older building. And here's something even more important. These skeletons were not lying at the same height. Some were slightly deeper, some were slightly higher. If they all died together, they would be in a one clean layer. But they weren't. Archaeologists could clearly see that these bodies came at different moments. Not one event, not one night, not one disaster. And then there's the biggest giveaway of all. None of the bodies show any sign of violence, no cuts, no breaks, no burn marks. Nothing that would even hint at an explosion. So who were these people? Well, we don't know. But here is what the evidence tells us. They did not belong to Mohenjo-daro. They belonged to the ruins that existed after Mohenjo-daro declined. And just for clarity, Mohenjo-daro did not disappear in a single day or by a single event. It was abandoned gradually, slowly. The next group of skeletons is the one lying in a narrow lane. People love to say that they died while running, but the truth is simple. That lane wasn't a lane anymore. By the time these bodies appeared, the street had already been buried under broken bricks and soil. This wasn't a place anyone could walk on. And the skeletons were found inside that debris, not on a street surface, which means they didn't collapse mid-run. They weren't caught in an explosion. They were placed in a space that had already been turned into rubble, long after the city's active life had ended. And again, the same. No injuries, no burn marks, nothing violent. And just another reminder that these skeletons came from the ruins after Mohenjo-daro was abandoned. And then there is the most famous image of all, the lone skeleton stretched across a narrow passage. People call it a dead man's lane and claim that he died while escaping. But archaeologists, well, they tell the same story again. He was not lying on a street. He was lying on the ruins on top of collapsed mud brick from a city that had already been abandoned. When you put all the three groups together, the picture becomes impossible to ignore. None of the 41 skeletons come from the day Mohenjo-daro ended. Not one. They come from the layers above the city, from the years after it declined, from a time when people were moving through a landscape of empty houses and broken walls and using the ruins in their own way. No blast, no sudden disaster, no moment frozen in time. Just an abandoned city, slowly filling with debris. Occasionally visited, occasionally reused, occasionally chosen as a place to leave the dead. So the nuclear theory falls apart completely. Not because someone said so, because the archaeology does. And now the question finally becomes clear. If Mohenjo-daro was not destroyed by an explosion, then what happened here? What ended one of the largest cities of the Indus world? What pushed people away from its streets, wells, workshops, and citadel? The answer lies not in the skeletons, not in the bricks, but in something much bigger, something that affected every settlement from Afghanistan to Gujarat. So please let us know if you are really interested in knowing the actual story of the end of Sindhu-Saraswati civilization. And if you're new to this channel, then don't forget to check the part 1 of the Mohenjo-daro video. And if you found clarity today and you're ready to go for the grand finale where we compare Indus Valley civilization with the Vedas, make sure to subscribe. Well, this is it from my side today. This is Harry signing off. Stay curious.